Do you suffer from impostor syndrome as a developer? I used to think I was the only programmer who felt like a fraud after opening Stack Overflow, questioning if I was even good enough to call myself a developer. Then I discovered these 3 techniques that changed everything. Today, I'm leading a Node.js team as an engineering manager, confidently without the constant fear of being exposed as a fake. There is an interesting connection between imposter syndrome and how our brain works. Today I'm going to show it to you, so let's dive in. Hey everyone, my name is Laszlo and I'm a full-stack web developer working with JavaScript, TypeScript, Node.js in the past 15 years. And recently I've made a huge transition in my career. I went from a developer into an engineering manager role. And this transition almost didn't happen because of the stories I was telling myself. You know what's crazy? According to a National Science Foundation study published in 2019, 85% of the things we are afraid of never actually happen. And get this, when those other 15% actually happen, people tend to handle it way more than they imagined it. I learned this the hard way, so in this video I'm going to show you 3 techniques that helped me overcome my imposter syndrome. Going from doubting every decision I made into confidently leading a team of software engineers. Here is my first technique. I call this the reality check. When I first started as a manager, my mind was constantly telling me, you are not ready for this, you are not good enough for this, you are not capable of this, and so on. So here is what I did every time this thought came into my head. I wrote it down and read it back multiple times. I read back the next day and the day after, and after a while, it sounded stupid. For example, when I started my first job as an engineering manager, I had this thought that they are going to fire me because I'm not good enough in my job. So I took a piece of paper, a pen, and wrote it down. My employer is going to fire me in the first few weeks because I'm not good enough in the position of being an engineering manager. I wrote it down and read it back multiple times. And guess what? Not only I was not fired, but I received pretty good feedbacks on the work I was doing even in my first few weeks. This made me realize something powerful. The voice in our head isn't trying to predict the future. It's just fear talking. So our goal should be to prove them wrong. Now, let's move to my second technique. The next technique is what I like to call the 5-step reset. It's actually based on a well-known mindfulness technique, which is called the SBNRR, which stands for situation, behavior, need, request, and response. Here is how it works. Every time imposter thoughts are trying to take over my brain, I write down answers to the following questions. First, what just happened? You need to identify the triggering event or context. Second, how did you react? You need to identify your behavioral or emotional reactions. Third, what do you need? You need to identify the underlying need. Fourth, what would help? You need to identify a clear request that would address your need. This request can be either targeted for yourself or to others. Number 5, what did you do or what are you going to do? You need to identify a clear next action or step of actions that you are going to do instead of reacting from emotions. So let's see an example how I used this framework just last week. So first question, what just happened? We had an architecture meeting where we were discussing how we are going to implement our new microservice, and one of my team members recommended to use GraphQL in that new microservice instead of the traditional REST API. While my team excitedly started to discuss the advantages of the shame of first approach, I started to worry because I have never worked with GraphQL before, so I felt completely lost. Second question, how did I react? I felt like an imposter because I was the tech lead on the team, but I didn't know anything about GraphQL because I never used it before. Everyone was talking about these advanced concepts about GraphQL, but I was still trying to figure out just the basics. I thought my team is going to realize I'm not technical enough to lead this team. Third question, what did I need? I needed to recognize that I don't have to be the GraphQL expert on that meeting in order to make well-rounded technical decisions. What I needed is guidance for my team to make this tactical decision, keeping in mind scalability, maintainability, and business impact. Fourth question, what would help? Instead of pretending that I know everything about GraphQL, I should promote a discussion with my team about implementation details, about team readiness, and potential business risks. So, fifth question, what did I do? I said, the advantages of GraphQL sounds promising, although I had never used it before. So please help me understand how this would affect our architecture and the communication with other REST API-based services. What would be the average onboarding time for a developer who have never used this technology before? How long would our front-end team's learning curve would be? And what's our rollback strategy if something goes wrong with this? These questions led to discovering a few important details that no one was thinking about when suggested this technology. The technical overhead and complexity, potential challenges with data migration and rollbacks, and the trainings we will need for people who have never used this technology. By asking these questions, I demonstrated my team that strategic thinking is so much more important than knowing every new technology. So my fear at the beginning was completely irrelevant, and I was able to overcome it. Technique number 3, and this is my personal favorite. Whenever imposter syndrome kicks in, I ask myself a simple question. What would I tell a junior developer in this situation? A few weeks ago, I was asked to do a database migration on a project that I have never worked on, and it was a live production environment. The imposter syndrome kicked in hard because I was afraid of killing the production application, even losing some data, and my brain started to tell me that I might get fired for this if things go wrong. So I asked myself the question, what would I tell a junior developer in this situation? So I answered it. Working with data and databases can be tricky, especially in a production environment, so I highly suggest that you do a database backup first, because we surely don't want to lose data, right? Secondly, I suggest you write a plan of actions of what you are planning to do. When you write down a plan, you think through what are you going to do, how are you going to do it, and in what order you are going to do it. So after answering this question, we created a database backup, we created a plan of action, and we were able to execute with confidence. While our approach wasn't perfect for the first try, we were able to recover it because of the backup we had, and then eventually we were able to get where we wanted to be. And guess what? I wasn't fired at the end. Look, I get it that imposter syndrome can be challenging to handle, but I can tell you that it's completely normal to feel that way. You probably already felt it before, at least once in your career, and that's why you probably clicked on this video, or you are going to experience it eventually in your career. So the question is not if you ever going to experience it, the question is, what are you going to do about it? The trick isn't to silence the voices in our head, it's to prove them wrong, one small win at a time. Thank you guys, that was the 3 simple techniques I wanted to share with you today, and if you like this video, please click the like button below, that would mean a lot to me. And if you want to see similar content in the future, make sure to subscribe to the channel, that would mean the world to me. Thank you so much. And one last thing, if you want to hear about my 3 trick that I use additionally to these other 3 techniques to overcome imposter syndrome, please check the description down below because I have a guide that includes those 3 tricks. And don't worry, it's completely free. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.